I don't care. I don't care. You can call it whatever you want. It was a trade. A trade happened in the world of college football, and we have to discuss it. There is a new quarterback in Rocky Top. There is new hope, new life for this Josh Heupel offense, and yours truly, Dave, you're going to have to knock me off the ledge because we're so back, baby. Welcome on into the Overtime Drive. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. Naturally, the news that shook the college football core last week has reached the final saga. We got to discuss that. Georgia, Ole Miss, made some portal moves. We got some spring intel, couple games this past week, so a lot to get into on today's show. And real quickly, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show whenever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Dave Shumate SEC, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. And naturally, this show is proudly brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com/SECU and get in the madness today by signing on up. And when you win your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets, whether it be the NBA playoffs, the NHL postseason, any one of your favorite MLB games, whatever you like. Make sure that you subscribe and go on over to FanDuel.com/SECU. Schuster, how the hell are you?
Our guy Joshy Manning-esque. He's right. I've never seen the Bear so lit. He's about to bring out his old Tennessee orange out here and say, hey, baby, we're back to over 9.5 in the win total. He's expecting the Vols and Heupel, year 5, to be knocking on the door of Atlanta here. Now, I'm excited to discuss what you think. If the ceiling is back now after about a week without a supposed starting quarterback, or do you feel like it's about the same as we were last week? But you're right. We got a lot. Probably the first week we've gone into when you combine the portal and you could have had 4 scrimmages, but we had 3 of them. Is the ones you mentioned that we actually have a lot of football kind of to talk about here before the portal wraps up this week. So fired up about it, Bear.
I think the big thing that you could take away is that at this point, we have an opportunity to see the funniest thing happen in this sport. We have an opportunity to truly lay down all the cards and actually look at this from a 360-degree lens and answer the question. Because of what do we know? The quarterback that left Knoxville is being replaced by the quarterback he replaced out in Los Angeles. So we'll get into that. We'll get into the portal grades. Georgia made some really good moves this past weekend. Ole Miss made some really good moves this past weekend. Of course, South Carolina had its spring game on Friday. Saturday, we saw Mississippi State have its spring game. We also saw Texas A&M have the maroon and white game. Again, these are more so glorified scrimmages than they are actual A-Day or what we know about the maroon and white game. But still, there are things to talk about as we close the chapter of spring football and move into the summer months. So as always, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel. So that way we can keep the content flowing for you and we can do fun things like talk about what are the main storylines in the world of the sport tonight. Naturally, Dave, we have to start off with the news that just broke right before we came on air. Joey Aguilar, the quarterback that went to UCLA after setting records in Boone, North Carolina at Appalachian State, decided to look around, make one phone call, and Josh Heupel said, come on home. He is now going to Tennessee. Nico Iamaleava is now going to UCLA, and there is a new QB1 leading the charge for the Volunteers in 2025. A veteran quarterback with multiple years of starting experience in a schedule that is very manageable to where we already talked about this. FanDuel decided to move the number down just a slight bit from 9.5 to 8.5. Hopefully you threw some money down beforehand because of that number I think is going to rise, especially now having a veteran quarterback. But overall thoughts just really quickly, what do you make of this moving forward for the Volunteers?
I think with the situation you're in right now, and obviously not getting left at the altar is the wrong word, just like what happened with Nico last week, it's a tough situation. They're kind of the pioneers of this, to lose your quarterback that was your no doubt starter right as spring was wrapping up. I think this is about what the best you could do. Again, I was lucky enough. I was worked ahead at the office today. Got to go back and watch 2 of his games, watch the Georgia Southern and Clemson games. All his throws, I was fired up. You two actually had all the throws just for him. It was easy to go through. I don't think this changes anything for me from what I thought last week of Tennessee's quarterback situation. I don't think it's bad. I just think And again, it's not their fault unless you're just totally blame them missing on Nico from a personality standpoint from the get-go. But I think just this take right here, it kind of is what it is to me. I mean, not overly mobile. He's played a lot of football. I will give him that. Size, adequate size. Does miss on some deep balls. I think he's okay in the short intermediate. I mean, Clemson was kind of just squatting down on a lot of the plays. Obviously, I mean, you had some question marks at App State at the receiver spot, but I think you're going to have those same questions heading into Knoxville. I mean, somebody could step up, like we talked about Mike Matthews, but right now we don't know that. You're going to have question marks at the offensive line spot at Tennessee this year. I think it gives them someone else to compete with. I'm not ready to 100% say he wins the job. I think this was kind of hey, he's got 1 year left. At worst, he plays. He starts for us this year. We got our guy for the future heading into next year, whether that's little George McIntyre, or the kid they have, Faison Brandon in the 26 class that they have committed to move on to the future. So it's a good stopgap bridge player, no matter how you slice it. He's going to help. Like you said, if he's a good teammate, going to help the starter get ready, Barry. You cover the NFL. That's what a lot of these backups are supposed to do. Maybe it's Merklinger, pushes him to go be his better self. I still feel the exact same way I do last week, though, is how going back and watching, I don't think he really moves the needle to going and beating Alabama or Georgia for them this year. I just don't think that does it for him. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I don't think Tennessee's going to be bad. And this is a tough situation no one's ever been in. So, again, for everybody thinking there was just locked-in quarterbacks with playoff contenders just willing to walk out their situation, probably not. It wasn't that easy right now to go tamper. Let's call it what it is. I'm sure they reached out to somebody, thought it was Luke Altmaier for a while. Yes, some plans fell through with that. But I think in this situation, Bear, it's the best you could get, but it does not change the ceiling. Probably helps their floor stay a little higher.
I agree with you on the floor. I disagree with the ceiling, but we'll get to that in a minute. ESPN's Pete Thamel officially reports that the deal set is at $1.2 million left at UCLA. He is going to be making significantly less than what Nico Iamaleava was going to be making in Knoxville, but that money, I think, is used to the right course. Over his time when he was at Appalachian State, set records as previously mentioned, over 6,700 passing yards, 56 touchdowns in 2 seasons with the Mountaineers. Before that, he had almost 3,000 passing yards and 21 touchdowns in 2 years at Diablo Valley Community College in Pleasant Hill, California. Very well known for his accuracy. Won Sunbelt Newcomer of the Year in 2023. Led the Mountaineers to a 9-win season that year. So I think that there's a lot to like about what you're getting in a guy like Joey Aguilar. Yes, the mobility thing is not there, and that's fine. But I want to counteract something. Yes, there are bigger questions that you have to answer about the long-term status of what this team is. But remind yourself for a second that if everything as advertised, where you look at the offensive line taking a necessary step forward this upcoming year, whether it be with Zalance Hurd being better or David Sanders being on campus and looking more promising on the right side, that you feel good about the interior, the wide receivers. It's a question right now, but maybe they will be better by the time we get to the regular season, or you just get a guy a few games underneath your belt, and then we're starting to see them hit their stride. The way that we watched a guy like Jalen Hyatt, or a Brew McCoy, or a Dante Thornton, or you could throw in a Cedric Tillman for when he was fully healthy. And
I just don't think they have those guys on the roster.
But maybe you do, and maybe you don't. We don't know right now. But again, we don't.
No, they don't have a Jalen Hyatt.
I think that Mike Matthews can still be that guy. I think that Chris Brazzell can still be pretty consistent. If you're telling me that I can get quality play in terms of accuracy, clean shots, and moving the sticks, and I have a 3-man roster at the running back room, so Star Thomas being one of my dudes, Deshaun Bishop, and Pate Lewis adding in value as secondary options or one taking on over that role, and my defense is good, I think 9 wins is still possible.
But I'm going to say this, Bear, to counteract. I think all 3 of those spots on offense would all have to play at a really good level. And I think defensively, they would have to be as good as they were last year. I don't think that's possible. And I'm not even going to blame anybody for that. They were really good on defense, a top unit in the league, especially the front 7. I think the problem with Tennessee getting to that 10-win total, I think all that would have to happen. And the chances of all that happening, when you factor in injuries, all those guys taking that next step, developing, turning in to Jalen Hyatt, Brew McCoy, 2020, I don't know if that all happens. I just think odds are stacked against that.
But if it does, 9 wins, I think, is still on the table. I think 9 wins was on the table beforehand, whether it was just if it was just quality quarterback play. And so, what am I getting in?
9's the ceiling.
But I think 10's the ceiling. I think 8 is the floor. I believe that the floor has been raised. I think the ceiling is slightly raised because I'm getting a veteran in there. And then again, here's the whole premise of it, Dave. Look at what you have right now when it comes to the overall conversation surrounding Nico. Nico left because of quote unquote didn't like the offense, didn't like the way that Josh Heupel was calling things. We know why he left. We know what the main reason was, and we know what was going on behind closed doors. But everyone's now having an opinion on Nico. We were carried last year by our run game. We were carried last year by our defense. And again, they're right. Tennessee had one of the better defenses and one of the best run games in the SEC. One of the best run games in college football. And that got them to a 10-2 record. So what if they have that again and Joey Aguilar is the exact same quarterback? It's a proof of two things. Number one, Josh Heupel is the right guy for your team. Absolutely. And he's finally getting into a stride. And number two, it was always the play design and the offensive play personnel and not the quarterback. Because the exact same record with the exact same stats or similar stats to what we saw last year with Nico Iamaleava, who was getting paid and was basically the poster child of college football for NIL because if he was the first major deal, it's the exact same results with the guy that we're paying significantly less, and he is just fixing and fitting in the system the exact same way.
I mean, if Tennessee's smart, and some of this is true too, whether people want to believe it or not. Yes, some of it was about money for Nico and them, but they did want to add personnel on the offensive side for Tennessee. That was something they were disappointed in, that it wasn't up to par. So that is a concern of mine too. I think two things can be true at once. They handled that situation awfully, but again, I think a little bit to your point, but if all that were to happen, if Tennessee's defense is as good as they were last year, or if someone replicates what Dylan Sampson does, I mean, yeah, they could go replicate what they did last year. I just don't think their defense is going to be as good as it was last year, and I don't think Dylan Sampson, the rushing attack's going to. I think it could be solid. I think it's got a good committee. I think they got some good pieces. I just don't think it's going to carry the offense, and I think the offensive line is going to be a little worse. So I don't know. I just think all the dominoes would have to fall into place for Tennessee to make the college football playoff right now. And I don't think the odds are in that favor.
The dominoes have to fall into place for everything, though, for every team out there. And so when I look at their schedule and I say to myself, there is one game that I feel very uncomfortable on the road, and it's Florida, because you always lose at Florida. But you do welcome in.
I had Alabama in that right now, too.
I forgot about Alabama. Fair enough. Okay, so Alabama you can throw in there, too. But you do welcome in Oklahoma. You do welcome in Georgia. You do welcome in Syracuse, who may have a new quarterback with Steve Angeli.
Yeah, I think you got to look at where the Georgia game's located. Now, I think if you had Nico or just an established starter already in the roster, I think that game works into your benefactor. Because the game being so early in the season, Georgia's a young team. It's at home. Now you're going to have a quarterback playing his first real team. No disrespect to Syracuse, who I think could be solid this year.
They could.
I think the pendulum swings the opposite way into Georgia's favor now. I think if you had Nico back, I know people don't like him, but again, I don't think he was the only reason why they struggled some offensively. But I would have felt a lot. I actually was leaning towards picking Tennessee in that game. Now, I don't know. Again, I don't feel near as bad. I don't feel like terrible because, again, Georgia has their own issues. Again, everybody in the SEC does. But I definitely think Tennessee's going to have to come together now at the quarterback position. Now with the quarterback position being a big mystery. I mean, what if Merklinger wins this job?
But that's the beauty of it too, is that no matter what, in my opinion, you're getting a solid quarterback room. Now, what I'm saying by this is that it may end up being George McIntyre, it may end up being Jake Merklinger, it may end up being Joey Aguilar, and it may be the same way that we talk about Joey Aguilar, the way that we talk about Ty Simpson with Keelan Russell situation. It's a matter of when we're going to see Keelan Russell. That may be it for Jake Merklinger. Like, you may end up seeing one of them. But to me, it gives you stability, and it gives you an opportunity to have a really solid quarterback that can still keep your team afloat in a very manageable schedule. That's my thing with this, is that when you look at this overall very much solid Tennessee team, not elite, not great, not special that can win a national championship, but with that schedule, and the way that schedule pans out, you still have an opportunity to be a 9-win team, maybe even a 10-win team if things start to hit at the right time. And
So,
put your
Corey,
ticket
do
in
you think this Tennessee team can be better than they were last year?
I think they could be as the exact same. Now, not better.
Yeah, I don't think because I lean more defense than I do. That's just my only depth of what they lost that defensive line. They were good, and again, that's more of a compliment to last year's defense.
I would say that they can be the exact same as last year. Not better. They can easily be worse, but not better. Let's go ahead and grade this move as we like to do, and we're going to do a lot of portal grades tonight. So real quickly, if you haven't already, make sure you like the video, hit the ring notification, subscribe to the channel. Dave, as we always do, elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus. Just break this down on what we're actually grading.
Yeah, quickly, guys, for the guys who have not seen our portal grades going back a year now, this is really dumbed down from what Bill Belichick and Nick Saban had from their critical factors. It's a lot of math. I mean, you're pulling out your phone to the calculator. This is Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning kind of mastered this. Honestly, next year when we do this, Bear, I'm going to add a winnable category, not for this portal sake, but next year because it keeps getting me. I always want to put somebody as a winnable. But point being, elite speaks for itself, guys. These are the dudes, the Julio Jones, the Patrick Petersons, the Mika Fitzpatricks, the dudes of dudes. Trey Smith, if you're a Tennessee fan, all league. Yeah, I mean, here these are LSU examples, guys. Kaylee Avon, Chasen, BJ Ojolari, guys that are going to help you win a lot of games, 2 to 3 year starters. They'll be your guys that speaks for itself, all conference, all league guys. Most of your roster here is going to be in this winnable plus, winnable minus. And if most of your roster is in the winnable plus range, you got a college football playoff roster, folks. Winnable plus, you're winning because of this guy. He's, again, that 2 to 3 year starter, but maybe the cerebral side, the technician side is what pushes him up compared to the elite all league guys. And the winnable minus, I always like to go back to the offensive line. It's a guy that, hey, you're not winning because of him, but he is a part of the supporting cast. Maybe he's your third or fourth receiver. Maybe he's your fourth or fifth best offensive lineman that just kind of does his role, but he's just have some physical measurables that just bring him down. And against elite interior defensive lineman, he gets beat. Somebody like that. This situation, Joey Aguilar, Bear, I'm going to go winnable minus. I don't think Tennessee's going to go win because of Joey. I think once Nico walked out that door, right, wrong, or indifferent, just my opinion, I think the floor of this team dropped about a game. I'm with you. Me and you 100% agree. I think Tennessee has one of the more manageable schedules out of the true playoff contenders in the SEC this year. That's why I'm not totally against it. If they had Oklahoma's schedule, Florida's schedule, we'd be having a different conversation. But I'm with you. I think the schedule here could help them get their feet wet. But again, they're going to be going against an Elijah Robinson defense. Week 1 in Atlanta against Syracuse. They'll throw a lot at him. 2 weeks later in Knoxville, Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann maybe won't throw a lot at him, but they'll throw some different looks he probably hasn't seen in a while just because they'll be young on defense. I don't know, Bear. I think I can't see this guy. I can't see Tennessee winning because of Joey Aguilar. To my point, I think a lot of all the other dominoes are going to have to step up, sit around him. I'm not as – the accuracy is somewhat there. The velocity, just fitting balls into tight windows that you have to in this league. Tennessee fans have continued to see it. Just missing deep balls consistently. In the 2 games I watched, he did that. Was not an overall great passer last year. I mean, what did he finish last year? 55%. Most college teams want you to be in the 65%.
Yeah, but what he finished the year before is the big question too.
What'd you say?
What he finished the year before?
In 23, but I mean, hell, I'm going off with you. I don't really care what you did.
I think it was like 68%.
63. Yeah,
okay.
So he's still not to that. That's why I'm 33 and 10 touchdown interception. I don't know. I just don't think this guy moves the needle that much. I think it's going to be a drop off from what Nico was, especially Nico has a way higher ceiling than this kid. So, winnable minus. Not down on it. Not Tennessee's fault. I think it's about as good as you could have done in the situation you were in, the hand you were dealt. I just think last week was a tough spot for you.
So I look at this in this scenario because I don't disagree with you, and there is a winnable category, and that's where I would put Joey Aguilar. But I think that Joey Aguilar can win one more game than what you would get with George McIntyre or Jake Merklinger. So for that reason, I put him at winnable plus because of he can win you one more game than what you previously could. I want him to be a consistent thrower of the football. Don't put the ball in harm's way. Be able to get around 2,900 to 3,200 passing yards, connect with the wide receiver, build that rapport, find your number one option, and consistently move the chains. And that's what I think you can get in a guy like Joey Aguilar. Now, I'm not saying that it's good enough to take it to the college football playoff because if you and I both agree on this, Tennessee's roster is not what it was last year. I disagree with you and think that there is not a wide receiver that can't have that breakout season in the same way that maybe a Jalen Hyatt did. I think it may end up being Travis Smith. I may be getting off the Mike Matthews wagon. I may be starting to buy a little bit more stock in Braylon Staley. But I still look and I say, there are pieces here to where this can be a solid offense. And I just need a facilitator of the ball. I need somebody who is going to build that rapport and keep positivity in the locker room. And the best part is, this is a winnable plus for another reason. What if this ends up pushing Jake Merklinger or George McIntyre to where Josh Heupel feels like any one of them could start and they're not going to have a drop-off? They're going to be in a really good spot, and everything is going to continue to trend in that direction. So for me, I'm not betting that Joey Aguilar is going to lead Tennessee to a college football playoff. I'm not betting that Joey Aguilar is going to lead Tennessee to a national championship. But we have seen facilitators of the ball, guys who just put the ball in the right place, win big games. And maybe that's what we're going to get in Joey Aguilar. Maybe we will see him be able to beat up on in Alabama or finally break the streak down the swamp. And they still go 9-3. Any one of those things could happen. And you know what?
If you had a better supporting cast, I would agree. If you walked into Georgia or Alabama's offensive room right now, I'd be like, yeah, I mean, you got 3 really good receivers right there. You got 3 starters back on the offensive line, good running back. Yeah, I could see you kind of I could see you walking into that a little bit. I think that's why some people are confident in Ty Simpson, who hadn't played a lot. But sure. I think he's been there. I think they just have a better overall supporting cast. And again, it's not all Aguilar's fault. I mean, guys can't be dropping footballs on twist and stunts. Guys can't be missing assignments up front on the offensive line. Again, they all are going to have to work in hand with him. So it's not all going to be on him, too. Tennessee's got to be better around him.
But again, that's the thing. And then at the end of the day, this is another big test for, I think, Josh Heupel. Hey, my offense, once again, 9+ wins. We're constantly changing the narrative around Tennessee football. This is a new form that we expect to be in for the long haul. I think it's a very good overall solid move to get a veteran quarterback on a friendly contract that you know that you can trot out there week 1, and he probably is just going to set the tone for the season. That's going to set the tone in the locker room. That's going to allow you to feel like that you don't have to rush the progression of Jake Merklinger or George McIntyre. And maybe internally they've already had that conversation and said, we're going to be a 9-win team no matter who starts at quarterback, so why don't we go ahead and not waste a quarterback or ruin his confidence before he has to go out there? So in my opinion, that's a winnable plus scenario for a team like Tennessee.
Well, he's just he's a bridge gap guy. Again, maybe that's why you don't go get the Notre Dame guy where he's a multi-year guy. You'd sign him to a multi-year thing. It'd mess up your role. It'd mess up the room. And honestly, I mean, if they got – I would hope the collective put some buyout in Nico's and they owed them some money back. Because I know Arkansas did with Madden leaving. That where they got some of that money back and they're not having to go spend as much on Aguilar, and you can in these last few days maybe go get some weapons like on the
get something
big, but maybe you can go tamper and get someone out of the port to leave their spot,
or get yourself a really good defensive lineman, build up that linebacking core, add in some other pieces.
Go get good linemen. That's the problem. Like everybody has most of them locked up, and I'll say that. I mean. Again, I think you'd have a hard time going to get a big-time receiver who's already with a good quarterback because you're kind of like, come on, man, come play with us. It's like, well, who's your quarterback? We don't know yet either, but he sure needs a weapon.
I mean, you got the Syracuse kid, and that might be it. But, again, you look at FanDuel right now. FanDuel is going to be moving that line up from 8.5 to 9.5, so hopefully you went and threw some money down. But if you haven't, don't waste any more time because the wait is over. Baseball season is finally here, and now the number one thing for baseball is to start off your season strong at FanDuel, which is America's number one sport book. Right now, FanDuel is celebrating the return of the MLB and giving new customers $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So lay down $5, win that bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. From hits to steals to home runs, they got a lineup filled with all of your favorite bets. Or if pitching is more of your thing, FanDuel is deep in the bullpen of bets from strikeouts to shutout innings. So when you place your first bet, it can be on anything. It could be on any line. Could be on any game. Could be on any player. And if it wins, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. Some of my favorite plays in the next 48 hours. Milwaukee, plus 1.5 on the road against Robbie Ray and the San Francisco Giants. I like the Yankees at minus 1.5 tomorrow against the Cleveland Guardians. I also think that for some reason, somehow, we are going to see the Detroit Tigers stay hot against America's number one team, the San Diego Padres. They're going to do diligence with the plus 1.5 over baseball's best team. So whoever it is, whatever you want to bet, just make sure you go visit FanDuel.com/SECU and join in on the action today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU. Make every moment count with FanDuel, the official sponsor of Major League Baseball. Disclaimer: must be 21 and present in select states for Kansas in affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino LLC. Non-withdrawable bonus, which if issued with non-withdrawable bonus bet, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms of deposit. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit cpgg.org/chat in Connecticut. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. If you haven't already, like the video, hit the ring notification. That way we can keep the party going. And we also know what you want to talk about. We still have to get through spring games and other transfer portal moves. So why don't we head on down to Athens, Georgia, where in a span of literally an hour, 3 new players and potentially 3 new starters for the Bulldogs on the offensive side and the defensive side were all signed by Kirby Smart. Let's start with Josh McCray, running back out of Illinois. Comes on in and is now going to be a secondary option alongside with Nate Frazier. 2 things I really like about this move. Number 1, it's a veteran that can go take the place of what you lost in Trevor Etienne. And number 2, he's coming from a system that loves to run the football, but also a system that doesn't have a lead back. Last season, 4 different running backs at Illinois all averaged around 4.4 yards a play. So this is a guy that you're adding in that is already going to understand what role he is going to have with Kirby Smart moving into 2025. You're muted, Dave.
I think he's going in and taking the spot of Roderick Robinson, who hit the portal. Yeah. That's who he's going in. I think that big bruiser but he dealt with the toe injury all year last year. So I think he goes in. I'm with you, Bear. I like this overall take as well, but too. I think McCray can really help this group out. Again, we saw him against South Carolina in the bowl game. Big kid, 6'1", 235. I mean, if you can play running back, I mean, we've seen all the backs like Alex Collins for us. Not saying he reminds me, but if you can play running back for Brett Bielema, you're a pretty good running back. So again, I think this is one of the better takes overall. At the very least, produces just depth in that case, and we've seen. I mean, you can lose depth so quick in that running back room. Hell, I was at Georgia when we had Todd Gurley, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, and Brendan Douglas all in the same room, and we had to go play a game at Missouri as our starting running back is Brendan Douglas because Todd Gurley was suspended for signing autographs, which sounds baffling now, and Chubb and Sony were hurt. So I mean, and then when I was at Auburn, we lost Kerryon Johnson and Cam Pelly. So you can lose running back depth quick. Georgia thin last year. We're relying on Nate Frazier. He had fumbling issues, so I know Kirby wanted to beef up that room. So you got to be fired up about that if you're Georgia. I'm with you, but I like this take a lot. I don't know how you couldn't if you're a Georgia fan.
5.2 yards a play last year, over 600 rushing yards, and 11 touchdowns. In my opinion, it's a really smart move to bring in yet another running back that you believe is going to elevate your team. And again, let's talk about what we also know. Gunnar Stockton. Who is he as a quarterback? Is he going to be that facilitator? Is he going to be a game manager? Is he going to play a lot like Jake Fromm? Is he going to take that step forward the way that you thought that you were going to see from a guy like Carson Beck? Is he going to be a guy that ends up leading your team to a college football playoff and puts the team on his back? Well, if he's not, Georgia still has a standard. It's college football playoff, national championship, or bust. So add as many pieces around him as possible to put yourself in a good position. That's what you're doing with a guy like Josh McCray. He's going to replace what you're losing in Robinson. He's going to replace what you're losing in veteranship with ETN. It's not going to put that much pressure on a guy like Nate Frazier to have to take a necessary giant leap forward, but it's also not going to hurt your running back room or say, you have to carry the ball 25 times a game for us to live up to what we're paying you. No, you can be a dude who in some situations is a red zone target. You can be a dude in some situations leads a drive all the way down for 6 points. That's what a guy like McCray does for your team.
This guy, and I misspoke, people. Sorry, Branson Robinson, the kid from Madison. I said Roderick. He was on it. Roderick's on it. Sorry, Branson Robinson, who I was talking about. This guy reminds me a little bit of McCray reminds me a little bit of what Rocket Sanders brought to South Carolina last year in the red zone. So I think this could really help.
Guy. Yeah.
Nate Frazier has a going into last year had some fumbling issues. I think like this is a veteran presence where, hey, we're inside the 10. We need to get 6, as you mentioned, Cole. I think this is who you could give it to and you could really trust. Because, again, I think it says a lot if you could play running back for Brett Bielema, who we know who likes to play some smash mouth football.
Let's go ahead and grade the move. Elite, all league, winnable plus, winnable minus. Dave, what you got?
God, see, this is where you wish we had winnable.
This is where you wish. You know what? It's good. We'll just say winnable.
Yeah, I just think, winnable. I don't think they're going to win because of him, but I also don't think he's going to need. I mean, obviously the offensive line's going to play well, but I think he could legitimately be like in that 1A, 1B back, 1-2 back, 1-2 punch, along with Nate Frazier. So I actually like this take. I think we could be hearing this name a lot in the fall game. We heard it a lot in the Big Ten. I mean, everybody was familiar with Josh McCray. So fired up about this one. If you're Georgia, at the very least, it's depth. But I think this guy, if all things go well, I think this guy has the proven accolades, proven experience in college football to go be a legit 1A, 1B type back in the SEC, especially at a school like Georgia.
Physical back that does a really good job of winning with the bruising style. You saw it on display against South Carolina defense that was one of the best in college football last year.
Binds his pads, breaks tackles, yeah. It reminds me of Rocket Sanders. That's who it reminds me of.
Very big reason why the Illini finished the year off with 10 wins. Very big reason why they were able to win the ReliaQuest Bowl over South Carolina. You're adding that with the explosiveness that comes in the size and in the impact of what you got with Nate Frazier. One dude is near 240 pounds. The other dude is near 210 pounds. One guy is known for having good open field speed, great feet, and the ability to make you miss. McCray's a guy that's going to pile drive it down into your throat and be thrown over the line for a first down. That's a good 1-2 combination that you want to have at Georgia. And Dave, you know this as well as I do. The best Georgia teams, what did they have? Wasn't exceptional quarterback play, wasn't elite overall attributes when it came to the wide receiver position. You had some dudes, but you had a thunder and you had a lightning at running back. You got a thunder and you got a little bit of lightning at running back with these two. It's a good way to set the tone and take pressure off of your quarterback to have to play hero ball in 2025. So it's a winnable move because he may end up only rushing for 600 yards. Those 600 yards may be really, really important to setting the standard of what we need to see for a Georgia offense in 2025.
No, I agree with you, Bear.
Another name,
winnables, I agree. I mean, this category was almost made for him.
Another name that was added in, Miami defensive lineman Josh Horton. So Horton, again, depth piece, 6'4", 295 pounds. Played only, I think it was 58 snaps over 8 games in 2 seasons at Miami. Very minimal production, but it's Georgia. You want as much depth as possible. It's a move that I don't think is going to transcend the way that we view Georgia's defense, but it is a move that I think was necessary, especially when you look at the way they played against Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl and some things we were hearing out of camp about where the offensive line was and where the defensive line was.
Yeah, I think this is a pure depth guy. Use the D word first. I'm gonna go depth. This is a total winnable minus, which it goes back. It proves the point. What we talked about all offseason. This is the lowest floor I think Georgia has had going into the season, especially defensively, because they were so young. And maybe by the season's end, it could be solid. But going into the season, Kirby Smart never really goes into the portal. Who's the best defensive portal transfer they've ever taken? Maybe Darion Kendrick when they took him from Clemson.
And he was also, again, at a major school, just like Miami.
Yeah, but this guy, he ain't going to have Darion Kendrick impact there. I think this is just a kind of a depth piece here, but it goes to show you where the holes are on this roster, that they're just trying to fill out some winnable minus type of guys in these depth pieces that aren't true freshmen. Because as we know, the further you get away from the football, the easier it is to go transition into college football at a younger age. The closer you are, offensive line, guard, interior defensive lineman, it's tougher to go immediately play because that physical that physical just difference, obviously, from high school football to any college football, much less the SEC. So I think this guy's just a depth piece. They'd be happy if he played 10 to 12 snaps for them a game and gave some breathing room to some guys. So, it is what it is. I don't think he could really go above a winnable minus right now because there's no proven production. I don't think they're expecting him to go have winnable plus or above type of production.
Be a guy that can go ahead and fill in on third down when somebody needs a breather. Go play 10 to 12 snaps a game. feel like that you have at least a piece that you can build around maybe for the long term in a rotational role. And then eventually he's going to be a reason why maybe on a third down stop, it's critical. He comes up for a play, and he's not doing it at other schools. He's not doing it at Arkansas. He's not doing it at Tennessee. He's not doing it at Alabama. He's not doing it out of Florida. He's doing it out of school to where it could end up benefiting you rather than hurting you. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this one because we both are going to have the same answer. It's a winnable minus for me. You're not winning because of him. He is coming on in to be a solid depth piece, and hopefully he can make an impact on running plays or on a pass rushing set, and he ends up being a reason why you win a football game drive. Not a football game, but a drive during a football game. Oh, look, there's Horton with the big fourth down stop. That if you do that, it's a win.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think most people would agree with us here.
I don't think that there's a big problem with that. One more to get to, and probably the name that most people want to talk about, and the name that is probably the most important, and I hopefully don't butcher it at all. Ole Modozie, Army outside linebacker. This was ESPN's number 8 player in the transfer portal. He was a big reason why defensively, especially in the run game and in the pass rushing department, that the Black Knights were able to go get to a 12-win season last year. He had 6.5 sacks. He only had 34 tackles, but he also did lead the team in pressures, and he was one of the American Conference's all-time leaders in pressure rates last year. I think he's a really good fit. 6'4", 240 pounds. He's that kind of hybrid outside linebacker, defensive end type that you want to be able to maybe play from a standing 9 technique that can go put his hand on the ground if need be. But I just look at him and how he is built. I think this is somebody that can end up being a big reason why your defense is getting off the field in 3 outs.
Yeah, I think this is as good of an outside backer. I don't know if they'll play him at Jack because he doesn't have the biggest frame and he's not overly long. But from a run support standpoint, he's just a DPR to me. He's just a designated pass rusher, which I think you can play at that. Just put him in on third down. I think if you put him first and second down, he could get ran at because he doesn't. If you go back and watch it, he doesn't have the length to disengage, and he's not an overly big kid. I mean, he came into college as a receiver.
Yeah.
So he translated. The athleticism's there. The bend's there. The quickness. The first step's there. I think in the spring portal, this is an awesome get. I think this is awesome. Is he going to be some big time contributor for him? I don't know about that. I think there's definitely a role, but again, I think 2 things can be true at once. It's an awesome pickup in the spring window. Again, you're not getting some big time edge rusher or big time interior guy either in the spring portal. That doesn't happen. People are locking those guys down in the contracts. But I think in the spring window, the athleticism, my guy Chidera Uzo-Deribe, the outside linebackers coach I worked with at Kansas, he'll be coaching him up. Phenomenal dude. He'll get the best of him. He'll let him reach his ceiling, or he'll get him to his ceiling. Not worried about the development here. I just think there's some physical attributes, the length and just frame, the narrow shoulders that can limit him in the run game. Bear, I'm gonna go winnable minus here. I think there's a role for him. I don't think they're gonna go win. Because of our guy Elo, but I think there is a role for him where he could have a big game where you're sitting there being like, man, he had 2 big sacks, a strip sack, something like that. There's a role in this defense for him. I love the pickup. I'm just not going to go have some massive. I don't know if he has the impact, but he walks into an immediate starting role. I mean, them losing Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, and Chaz Chambliss. I mean, they needed this, so it'll be interesting to. It'll be interesting now. Where's the North Carolina kid go? So that'll be interesting.
Atkinson, yeah. Maybe he still goes to Georgia, and there's another role.
There's a spot there.
There's a spot for him. You know what this reminds me of? There was another AAC player who last year was brought in, and he basically dominated on third down as a pass rusher. Trey Moore at University of Texas. Yeah. Using the exact same way. Glenn Shumate, I think, can have a field day just getting him on prepared early on in the season when you play teams that it's not going to really matter. You can just get the reps underneath you. And then comes the Georgia game against Jacksonville, and it's a World's Largest Outdoor Cocktail Party. Then comes the Florida game in Jacksonville, and it's a World's Largest Outdoor Cocktail Party. And he ends up having 3 critical sacks on third down to get the ball back to Georgia's offense, and it's a reason why they win this game. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is what I think you're going to get in a guy like Modozie. That's the thing that I look at where you want him to just be impactful in one area. And if he's elite in that area, then the rest of the defense can find a way to mitigate the flaws to the rest of his game. You can find a way to enhance your play around him, and he can be a really good find. I'm going to go winnable, not winnable minus, not winnable plus. I'm going to go ahead and cheat here and just go winnable because he's going to be a reason why you can win some drives. He's going to be a reason why you can win some moments. He's going to be a reason why your defense might feel better in the pass rushing department. And the fact is that, yeah, you brought this up. Georgia is one of those programs, a lot like Clemson, a lot like Bama, a lot like I would even throw in probably Texas at this point. You have such talented defensive players and such talented defensive prospects. You don't have to go into the portal usually. But when you do, it's to probably fix one minor area and make it a major strength. That's what this move to me feels like, is that it's something that allows you to take that necessary step forward where you're adding in a really, really, really good pass rusher, and hopefully the rest of the things can kind of flow along with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we're on the same page here, Bear. I think we both I don't know if you feel him on all three downs on a defensive series, but I'm with you. I could see there being some games. Certainly, I mean, still get creative with packages and stuff. So I think you can definitely get on third down.
Like the way that I feel about Steve Sarkisian with certain packages and players in his offense, that's how I feel about Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart in their defense. Like, there'll be things that will happen and it'll work. Like the video, hit the ring notification if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day, including transfer portal news. And we're going to start doing live streams when we have the opportunity to, because there is a lot of portal news. Because we're not done. We got to move over to Oxford, Mississippi, where Ole Miss brought in a couple of players, including South Alabama defensive back Ricky Fletcher. Guy comes on in, missed all the 2024 season with a back injury, but he's returning home to the Magnolia State in 2023, started all 13 games, finished with 36 tackles, 12 pass breakups. He's somebody that can kind of fit into like that Yam Banks role or like that Trey Amos role where maybe he wasn't meant to start immediately at a place like Ole Miss, but eventually he could have a home for himself. Ricky Fletcher, he's got some experience underneath his belt. He knows the area and the lay of the land. And we've watched his G5 players before have come to this defense underneath Pete Golding and eventually gotten better because of it. And also, let's just call a spade a spade. Lane Kiffin goes in the transfer portal. He's going to miss on some, but he's going to hit on most.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of PT to be had on the back end for the Rebs. A lot of people lost Trey Washington. You mentioned Trey Amos, Yam Banks. I mean, lost a lot of dudes from that perspective. Again, I think they had a bunch of injuries too in the spring because Jalen Braxton wasn't out there, and I think Sage Ryan wasn't out there either. You had TJ Banks, I think, out there a little bit, and Chris Graves is out. So I mean, Lane Kiffin said it. I mean, the battle in the secondary is going to go way deep into the fall, and I think he's going to have I think Ricky's going to have every chance here. I think Ricky Fletcher's going to have every chance to go win it. Again, hadn't played in a year, but you go back and watch the 23 stuff. You see the link, 6'3", 197. Say what you want about Pete Golden. He knows what it's supposed to look like. He's improved the personnel in the defense for Ole Miss since he came on 2 years ago. So I like to take if he can stay healthy. I think there's a spot. Tons of playing time, especially when teams are playing with 5, 6 DBs now in nickel and dime packages. I think there's a spot for this guy if he's healthy. From the film I saw a year ago, I think he can make an immediate impact, especially with as many, 4 to 5 open spots, depending what packages they're in.
Dave,
sorry, let me get my grade. I'll go winnable minus. Injury guys, I'm going to give a little bit of a hesitancy too, so I'm going to go winnable minus. But if you told me I saw the film from last year, I'd be close to moving it to winnable plus. So I'm going to go winnable minus until I see what the injury bug does for him in 25.
It's a veteran that can play in a secondary that needs to be better with mitigating the explosive plays downfield. This is somebody that has played in a similar brand of defense because of Kane Womack and what we've seen with the style of play in the secondary underneath him, what we're going to see with Pete Golding. He's not guaranteed to start, but he may end up being really big on a third down stop. I agree with you, winnable minus. And again, what if he ends up starting 13 games and becomes an all-SEC player? Like, if I'm going to trust anybody to hit on the right pieces in the transfer portal, it's Lane Kiffin, because Kiffin does this all the time. He brings in a dude from Maryland. He brings in a dude from Auburn. He brings in a dude from Florida State, and they end up benefiting from it. They become better off going off to the NFL, and they end up being really, really big to the success that we've seen in Oxford the last few years. Winnable minus because of the injury does scare me. Did not play out at all in 2024, so you are banking on the film of 2023. Could be worse though. Could be a lot worse when it comes to a guy like Fletcher coming on in.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're so thin back there and a lot of inexperience. So, I mean, why it doesn't hurt bringing him in. Again, I don't know how much you paid, so I don't know what you valued him but again, just from a body, pure football standpoint, I mean, the kid flashes at times. It would be interesting to see why Alabama didn't go after him, just because they're so familiar. Now, a little bit different style of systems. Like Bama's going to run like quarters and stuff. Or Ole Miss, I said Bama, I meant Pete Golden. He's going to run more quarters and stuff now than Kane Womack does. That'll be interesting. But I liked his 23 stuff.
Another name to watch for in another position that maybe doesn't have an X factor but has some depth to it, it's running back. Running back out in Oxford. They're hoping that they're going to have a healthy Logan Diggs. They're hoping that Keywan Lacey that comes on in from Missouri can be a big-time name. But let's say neither ends up happening. Well, they added in another name just to be safe. Damien Taylor comes on in from Troy. Last season, 173 carries, over 1,000 rushing yards, 5.8 yards a play, 7 rushing touchdowns. The year before, 5.2 yards a play. He also added in some value out of the backfield when it came to a pass-catching role. There's a lot of things to like about him in terms of how he is able to elevate, I think, the run game. One more year of eligibility, and there's a consistent factor. Last season, averaged 84.4 yards a game. So 84 yards on the ground with a brand new quarterback as you're trying to implement the offensive personnel. I think it's a very big under the radar move for one reason. It's another running back just to add into your system, and he's not going to a rival school that could end up hurting you when you play against them.
I think it's more than that. I mean, I don't really think they're paying kids to keep them away from other. It's just a waste of money. But like, I don't think they're keeping this kid away from it. I think they just need depth. And you lose Henry Parrish and you Ulysses Bentley, and let's call it spade a spade. The Ole Miss running back room last year was mishandled. When you're talking about how much you were paying some of these guys, yeah. Sometimes Ulysses Bentley wasn't playing. But you're right. I mean, Logan Diggs, to your point, Bear, the injury bug. That's what concerns me. I mean, you got a real chance here if you're Damien Taylor to come in and be running back one, because I think this is one of Ole Miss's big question marks on a team that has a lot of question marks. Again, I think they brought in some talented guys, but the portal is not the same every year. The talent level is not the same every year. I think from a take standpoint, this time of year in the spring, from a running back depth standpoint, this is the best you could do. I mean, so the take and at the time, I mean, you had to, and I think it's as good as you can get. I think him as a player, just going back to watch it, always kind of judge running backs, what they can do at the second and third levels. Because usually you want your offensive lineman to at least guarantee you can get 2 to 3 yards, and after that, it's on you as the running back. I'm going to go winnable minus right now, but I would maybe put an ascending arrow there just because I trust Lane Kiffin. And I know the running game went down a little bit last year at the running back position. Again, a lot of those rushing yards were Jackson Dart as well. We all know he's gone. He'll be hearing his name called this week. But the running game for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss this year have been a major question mark, especially at the quarterback spot. But I think if Ole Miss is going to get this running game going, Bear, I do think Damien Taylor is going to be a part of it. If that's all you told me is, yeah, Ole Miss had a good running game this year. It's like, all right, that Damien Taylor kid they took from Troy ended up probably being a pretty good player for him this year. So I'm going to go winnable minus right now. But knowing Lane Kiffin and how he can develop an offense and it gets going as the season gets going. This kid may have a slow start, but maybe as the season gets going, they get rapid and rolling, especially once they get the offensive line rolling. So I don't know. Winnable minus right now, sending up, though, because that's who the play caller is.
What I will say is that if you know anything about a Lane Kiffin offense, everyone wants to talk about the passing game. Everyone wants to talk about the quarterback. Everyone wants to talk about how the wide receivers can open. Lane likes to run the football. Lane is really good at running the football. And I think Ole Miss's offense is at its peak when they have a person who can be that bruiser and get about 18 to 25 carries a game. If you can get that in Damien Taylor, and he can be RB1, even if he's averaging instead of 5.8 yards a play, 4.6, it's better. And it gives you an opportunity to feel like that your running game is going to be more stable because of it. And that you are taking that step forward and that you are going to be able to be a more diverse offense. Because at times last year, yeah, Jackson Dart was a really, really good quarterback. He was QB1 for me in the SEC. He was the third best quarterback in college football for my money last year. That's how much I like Jackson Dart. But as much as we talk about Garrett Nussmeier not having a stable run game, in a year where it felt like you were all in, it didn't feel like you had that all-in rushing attack. So maybe you do have that with a Damien Taylor. Maybe you do have that with a Logan Diggs, but it gives you an opportunity to feel like that with him, Dominique Thomas, Keywan Lacey. You're at least setting a tone for what you have in a solid overall run game. That's a positive in my opinion. That's a step in the right direction for my opinion. So I go winnable minus only because of you are transitioning, and it does feel like Logan Diggs is going to be your number one running back. But I agree with you. If you told me at the end of the year that this is a dude that is a really solid contributor and Ole Miss was once again one of the best running games in the SEC, it's because of what Lane Kiffin's able to do.
Yeah.
One more, just throw out there. Terez Davis comes on in from Maryland. Son of standout NBA star Ricky Davis, 6'5", 310 pounds, played 10 to 12 games last year as a true freshman for the Terps. 3 more years of eligibility, started at left tackle. I think this is, again, a developmental move for the long term. Guy that you're probably not going to see start that many games this year, but maybe in 2026 you can go ahead and trust him to be your long-term option.
Yeah, I mean, what teams are doing now on the offensive line, even though they have 5 set, they're going to go back in pay in the spring now for some of these kids to be the 6th, 7th guy, which inevitably, as we know, I mean, you're lucky as hell if your same starting 5, which never happens. Missouri, I could think of 2 years ago, had pretty good offensive line luck, and South Carolina last year had pretty good offensive line luck. But what do you know? Both of them had big seasons. So, again, you have good offensive line injury luck, you're going to be a pretty good football team. So, I think he just gives them depth. I mean, he's a tackle. They have both their offensive tackles back. I mean, Diego Pounds and Jaden Williams are both back from last year. So I don't think he's going to win any of those jobs. But again, inevitably, one of these guys, not just those 2 guys, will probably miss a game or 2 or a series or 2. And this is when I think our guys, Terez, Davis, can have a chance to go play. So winnable minus. I mean, I don't think they're expecting him to be some winnable. It's similar to the Horton kid that Georgia took in the defensive line spot. I think these are just very similar situations here. Probably like the upside of Terez Davis, honestly, more than if I had to pick out of 2. I'm going to go winnable minus, though, Bear.
Winnable minus, depth piece. Maybe you're going to have him start next year in place of Jaden Williams or Diego Pounds. Whatever it is, that's a sign in the right direction. And if he has to play a couple games, guess what? You look at their schedule. Much we talk about everything that goes on with Tennessee and how they feel like solid quarterback play, overall balanced offensive personnel, somebody breaks out that wide receiver position, they can get 10 wins. You could say almost the exact same thing about Ole Miss. You switch out the Wake Forest game with Washington State. It's a Washington State team that's not going to have John Mateer. It's not going to have Jake Dickert anymore, who surprisingly, of all places, went to Wake Forest. Like that, in my opinion, is a completely different game than what you thought. We don't know who's going to be starting a quarterback for Tulane this year. Now with Joey Aguilar going on over to Tennessee. So it's like, you know what? It's a good move to where you bring in some depth. He probably can start a game for you, and you're not going to be missing a beat. That's how I feel about you adding in a guy like Davis here.
Yeah, no, I think, again. So, Bear, the only one me and you weren't – Aguilar is probably the only one me and you weren't really on the –
Aguilar, you were winnable plus.
But
yeah, Aguilar, you were winnable minus, and I was winnable plus. Besides that, basically we agreed on everything else. Like the video, hit the ring notification, of course, subscribe to the channel. We're not done just yet. We still got to go through every single spring game that happened this weekend. 3 major events that took place on Friday, Saturday. Let's start off with the game out in Columbia, South Carolina. The one that was on a Friday night. Very much an overall unknown kind of feel in certain spots, but also still maybe feel like that you sense there are things that you can work on in this summer, but still a lot to build off of to where you're in a good team. Overall thoughts on what you took away from South Carolina spring game?
Probably some of the same thoughts I had going into the year. Like who's going to step up as wide receiver, like the true number 1 wide receiver? Like, I think Mazio Bennett's got a role in the squad. Again, I think he could be a 2 or 3 guy. I just don't think he's a 1. They need Nick Harbor to just not be this big physical looking body. I mean, that's awesome, dude. If you look like Julio Jones, but if you're not consistently playing to a winnable plus all conference level player, like I think Lenore Sellers needs you to be this year. I mean, it doesn't really matter. So that would be, and again, not taking much from one spring game. And I think the other one's what I said going into the offseason. I think the big thing that really benefited the pass rush last year was Kyle Kennard being so good. I really think overall that just had a massive impact on how Dylan Stewart was. Because, again, you couldn't just you couldn't double team either one of them. Now Kyle Kennard's out. Give them credit. They developed him. Georgia Tech got nothing out of him. So I think it's one of the more underrated transfer portal takes in this era, if we want to be completely honest. Guy won SEC Defensive Player of the Year and had nothing from the Georgia. So give Shane Beamer and his defensive staff credit from that perspective. But I do think that's why I think the North Carolina guy could be big for them. They need to add another pass rusher to that side. But again, these pass rushers all see that. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. Who can help take away the double teams and the chips away from Dylan Stewart? Someone they don't have to replicate what Kyle Kennard did. I'm not saying that. Just be serviceable. That's kind of what I'm looking for from that perspective. And obviously just can't be racking up a bunch of injuries on the offensive line. That depth will be key too, though, Bear. But really kind of the same answer. It's not going to really change my opinion going into a team off just one practice scrimmage.
A couple of takeaways from me. Number one, the wide receivers. I don't think that you know who's going to be your number one wide receiver. That's okay right now. In my opinion, I'm not really complaining about it. As long as Mazeo Bennett, who wasn't out there on Friday night, is able to have a role in this offense, as long as Nick Harbor doesn't look like Tarzan and play like Jane, I'm cool with it. I think Van Jacobs at least showed you, in a sense, with the two big-time catches, like the big 41-yard grab, he can be a vertical presence. He can be a dude that wins the line of scrimmage and gets that big, deep shot down the field. He may only have 18 to 25 catches in a season, but what if every single one of them is for 19 yards? Like, to me, I saw that. I like that. I think Jordan Dingle, the tight end that they brought in from Kentucky, is going to have at least a signature role in this offense. I think if they want to go ahead and trust what they have with Smith coming on back, full year, be able to build that rapport and the relationship on what you're bringing in alongside with the Norris Sellers. But I do think that you feel really good about Dingle as a quality tight end. More importantly, he's somebody that I think can be at least a physical option inside the red zone. Very nice safety blanket. I also feel like with the offensive line, right now, you don't have anyone elite, but you at least have pieces. You have guys that can compete throughout the entire summer months and going into fall camp that take that necessary step forward. Speaking to some people around the program, and I got to say his name this way because it's the only way I can, Boaz Staley, I think is going to have a pretty big role in this offensive line. I think that he may start at center. He may end up being a starting guard. But everything that I've heard is that he has done a really nice job of transitioning on over to the team. There's a lot to, I think, like about what he is. And then Lenore Sellers. I think he feels comfortable in this offense. I think he feels really good about where he is going to take that next step forward underneath Mike Shula. Only played 2 drives, but the 2 drives were really, really promising. Picked up a third first down. Was able to go convert on a third and manageable situation. I think that there's a lot to like about who he is as a player and how comfortable he is running the system underneath Mike Shula. It felt like to me, watching the highlights and seeing the insight, that what we know about a guy who is so well put together, I think in the IQ standpoint, not feel like there is any transition between going from Dow Loggins' play caller to Mike Shula's play caller. That's a very big one in itself.
Yeah, I don't know if Dow Loggins was a great offensive play caller, though. I think a lot of that was Lenoris. To be fair to him, I think Lenoris saved him. I think Mr. Joker makes a good point. Great, Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy is a guy I was reading up, had a good scrimmage because they have to replace some of those interior guys like TJ Sanders. So good for Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy. He was a good kid in the recruiting process. Guy from Florida signed with A&M. I think his family moved to College Station.
A&M,
transferred to South Carolina. So they need him, a big portal guy that me and Bear did a grade on back in December. So, no, that would be big for South Carolina if he continues to trend up.
Another guy that we did a grade on was Rasul Faison, the running back out of Utah State. Thought he had a pretty good day overall when you talk to some people. He's going to make his he wasn't able to go ahead and play in this game, but he's going to have a really big role. Jawan Howell, I think, is going to be a name that we're going to see have a bigger year. Oscar Attaway, again, can he be a solid number 3 running back? Like that's what you're asking for from him. Can you make up the production lost with no Rocket Sanders with 3 guys? Can that be what ends up being an impact for you? One more name to throw out there. I thought DQ Smith had a really good day, especially in the secondary. Senior, veteran, somebody that can be that X factor leader, that big time game. If he can be that dude, to me, that's like kind of replacing what you're losing in Nicky Manwari. There was no Jalen Kilgore. He didn't play in this game. Doesn't really matter to me. I know what he's going to give me in the nickel. But if I can get a quality DQ Smith to have that same rise the way that Nicky Manwari did last year, that's your replacement in the secondary to where I think you can go ahead and have a good spot.
Yeah, they need some help in the back end.
Let's go over to Mississippi State, Starkville. I'll start off with the first big takeaway. The defense is going to be better because it can't get much worse than what it was last year. They went really big in the portal to bring in some names, a couple of different linebackers. I think the big takeaway is it was so bad last season that Coleman Hustler kind of realized I'm going to be on the hot seat. So now we're at least getting some plays in place. You feel really good about some of the names you brought in. Some new faces like Jalen Smith had a pretty decent day at linebacker. Tony Mitchell had a pretty decent day at linebacker. Their depth, I think, is going to be there. I think that's kind of like the big thing is that they're going to have some players that maybe only play 15 to 20 snaps, but those 15 to 20 snaps per game may be beneficial because it's what it's doing. To me, it's allowing your starters, the guys that you have a lot of faith in, to get off the field and have a breather. That's a thing that I think was missing last year is that you trusted so much of your starters that you did like that they weren't able to go catch their breath. And the offense wasn't as up to pace as you wanted it to be. So now you feel good about the depth of where you are, which means that your defense as a whole is going to be better. It's not going to be worse than what it was last year. Because
I got a text from their GM today. He sent me most of their – so defensive line, the bodies look totally different from, and especially pictures you saw online. Dudes who are at least walking around looking 6'3". I mean, let's be honest, South Carolina fans that are listening, Stone Blanton started for Mississippi State in the front seven last year. Let that speak for itself. They thought their defensive staff adding analysts for people who don't know. I mean, you had McIntyre, who used to be the head coach. Mike McIntyre used to be the head coach at Colorado, as an analyst there now. He said he's helped tremendously, and so has Paul Rhodes, former Iowa State DC, and then was a DC at Auburn at one point as well. So some veteran appearances like that. Offensive line needs big help. Quote, offensive line needs help, and they'll look to see what they can do there this week. Some guys Coach Kennedy signed last year just aren't cut out for, because remember they changed offensive line coaches for Coach Lloyd Holt, who took over in January. So it's a totally different. So offensive line, I think it's going to be. I heard their personnel was not great, but it should be one of the better quarterback rooms they've had in a while. They're fired up about that. I think they got a lot of speed at the wide receiver spot. But I think offensive line, for as much as they've improved on the defensive line, maybe not much, is probably a little bit exaggerated. They're improved. They got different bodies that actually look SEC ready. Because for the longest, I mean, you can say what you want about Mississippi State's record. They always had defensive dudes. I mean, even on the back end, I mean, they had Banks who led the SEC in interceptions. You had Jamal Abrams. You had Jonathan Abrams. Played it for the Raiders, signed with Georgia with us when we were there in Mississippi.
Jonathan Banks, throw him in there. Darius Slay.
Yeah, I mean, they always had guys. Defensive line, I mean, they're probably the most productive NFL defensive lineman of anybody, of any college program. So they always had dudes even Richie Brown, the linebacker, was a pretty solid college football player. But I think they've improved this roster as much as possible. Does that translate into more wins? Maybe one or two. I mean, I still think he would be SEC Coach of the Year, should be, if they were to get to 6. I don't think they're to that point, but 4 to 5 should be realistic for this team. So again, I think offensive line, major question mark. And I think even to your point, Barry, you brought up, I think from an off the field standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, they've added some veterans, and I think they've added some better bodies too. So I think they've done what they can do. It's just it's a hard ass job in today's environment.
The other thing that I think is really important is that they're going to have depth at running back this year. And we've talked about this in full advantages from time to time over the last year. I think that the reason why we looked at so negatively when it came to Jeff Lebby's offense is Lebby needs to have a solid run game. Like, anyone that knows the veer and shoot offense with the vertical passing attack, you have to be able to run the football. Now, I'm not sure if it's going to be elite this year, if it's going to be incredibly that much more improved when it comes to the numbers, but they have the pieces there. Davin Booth, Johnny Daniels, Xavier Gatton, and then, of course, Fluff Bothwell. And I think Fluff Bothwell is a really special talent. I think that he can be a reason why you turn on a Mississippi State game and you're saying, hey, this thing is a lot closer than we expected. I think that he can be a transcendent player. I think he kind of has to be because of a position that you didn't mention yet, Dave, was the wide receivers. I right now, losing guys like Kevin Coleman and Mario Craver.
I think they were all right. I'll be honest. I think they were okay with losing Mario Craver. He was a kind of locker room.
Sure, but what I'm saying is from a talent perspective. I
think they're willing to trade. He was bad, dude. I think they let him walk. They were tired of it, to my point. To defend them, I'm not going to, for their reasoning.
No. And I'm not saying that it's okay with losing. I'm just saying from a talent perspective, you are downgrading in the terms of talent. But do you
Let's
feel
be
good
honest, their offense, if the offensive line isn't any good, it doesn't matter anywhere else.
But do you feel good about the wide receiver room? It did feel like the Ole Miss transfer, Aiden Williams, had a pretty decent day. I think that he had, what was it? I think he had like 4 catches. I think it was like for 44 yards, 45 yards. He also had like a big time play at one point. Marcus Allen, Anthony Evans, Brennan Thompson. Somebody's got to step up. Like, to me, my big takeaway is Luke Kromenhoek, Blake Shapen. Either one of them could be the starting quarterback. If your offensive line is not going to protect him, you're in a world of hurt. But if
we knew it was going to be bad. I mean, he made an offensive line change after year one, and everybody thought it was going to be Coleman Hutzler.
But everyone also, but the other thing is that to me, it doesn't really matter if you can't run, like if you can't have a good offensive line. You also have to be able to have a weapon that you can trust. And I just don't know right now when looking at the wide receivers that somebody is going to be that guy. Like Kevin Coleman, I think you and I talked about this when we were doing Sunday Fun Day. I said, if I am Starkville, if I'm athletic director, why am I blanking on his name? Zach Selman. If I'm Zach Selman and I go demand our boosters pay for one player, it's Kevin Coleman. And the reason why was just because of when you have a wide receiver like that, you make sure that you pay him and you keep your quarterback happy. And they just don't have that right now. So the defense, I think, is going to be better. I think the run game's going to be better. Don't know about the rest of the offense. This still, to me, feels like a 3-9 team, maybe a 4-8 at best, going into next year.
Yeah, I mean, you get to 4-8 or 4 to 5 wins. You hate calling that a successful season, but it's an improvement. Yeah, it's an improvement.
Let's go to the maroon and white game. Let's talk about what we saw. Number one, I'll just throw this out there. I think that you're going to see a better version of this offense for one main reason. Marcel Reed knows he's QB1 going into the year. There's no quarterback battle. There's no competition. When you look at Mike Elko, he's already made it clear. We're trusting what we got in number 10. He is going to be our dude. He is going to be the reason why our offense takes another step forward. I felt really good about where the defense was. I think the defensive line is getting closer to what it needs to be underneath Mike Elko. But they have a lot of work that they have got to build on in this offseason.
Yeah, Barry, I watched some of this, like a half. I had it on in the background. And when I saw, I didn't watch the whole thing. When I was watching, Marcel Reed did not look great.
No, he didn't.
That would be the concern. And again, that's for the whole, kind of goes back to the offense. We already mentioned Mario Craver. But, I mean, again, I think everybody's just looking at Marcel Reed. How consistent can you be? Offensive line, and he's still got some question marks there. And to your point, I think the defensive line's coming along. Like, I like Tyler Owen-Diem. I remember him out of Florida, out of high school, signed with Iowa State. And then the back end, I mean, what do you got? Really got Will Lee. It's kind of, they need Des Ricks to step up.
Yeah.
Again, I stepped up. I mean, I watched about a half of this. Really, my main takeaway was Marcel Reed still missing on some stuff. Again, it's early, getting adjusted with the receivers, but I need to go back and watch the second half. I think Martin Abu was out, the center again. I mean, everybody, you mentioned Mazio Bennett was out for South Carolina. Everybody had guys out in this game, but that was some of the things. Marcel Reed was, when I was watching the half, kind of stood out to me on this.
He stood out for a negative reason, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He wasn't great. He had 2 very, very bad throws that should have been picked off that weren't. He had a play that probably should have been a touchdown that was dropped by a receiver. There was a lot of things that went negative for this offense, but to me, the added pressure of going into spring practice last year when it was, hey, is it going to be this offense built around the mobility of Marcel Reed and the ability to maneuver outside the pocket? Or are we going to have Connor Wigman, who's a pocket passer that has some dual threat capabilities and can tuck and run it if need be, but we don't know who's going to start because we have an injury-prone quarterback, and then we have another guy that maybe we don't know what he's going to provide in terms of Colin Klein's system. It's a win because of that's not a conversation you're having. Miles O'Neill is QB2. Marcel Reed is QB1. A couple other takeaways. I think that you are going to see really good Casey Concepcion. I've already said that I think he was a top 5 addition in the transfer portal this offseason, and he needed to go to a team that has great quarterback play. My question is, can you build that rapport? Can you build that relationship? Do you feel good about where you are between these two, seeing eye to eye on the same level to where that connectivity, the way that we watched when he was a breakout in Raleigh in 2022, can that be on display? 2023, can that be on display in 2025? Because of as much as I want to say Then when you look back, he wasn't able to create a lot of separation against these cornerbacks. You can go ahead and give credit and say, yeah, the cornerback play is really, really getting better underneath this team in year 2 of Mike Elko, who played defensive back at Penn. You could say that, and that feels really positive. But you also have to say, why are you not creating that separation? Is it because you're not on the same page as your quarterback? Are you just not up to full speed? Are you just trying to implement and break into this offense? What was the problem there? Because I very much believe when you look at the positivity surrounding what a guy like Casey Concepcion is as a route runner, his catch radius, his footwork, it's really promising. It just wasn't there for me during that game.
Yeah, I'm interested. We talked about some other non-conference games, and I think it's probably because we saw it last year in College Station. But that September 13th, Week 3 game at Notre Dame, that'll be because that's real when everybody's going to be like, all right, you open up with UTSA and Utah State. Like, we'll see how much improved Marcel Reed is under Colin Klein in year 2. And let's be honest too, it's Chris Ash, the new DC since Al Golden went to the Bengals. Chris Ash, former Ohio State DC, former head coach at Rutgers, his first kind of act to kind of go see what the new defense for Notre Dame looks like. Can they go make the college football playoff again with Marcus Freeman again? So that's a very intriguing. I was just looking at A&M's schedule. I was like, it's actually a very intriguing game. Now I'm looking at theirs. That's not their first. So they open up at Miami and then A&M. So they got a bye week in A&M. So A&M will actually have some film there against a quality opponent they can break down. That'll be a very interesting matchup for Marcel Reed to go on the road in September against Notre Dame there. I don't know. I'm fired up for that one.
19-7 was the final score. 1 touchdown pass to Miles O'Neal to Isaiah Williams. I think Isaiah Williams' speed is going to have him playing a big role, at least on third down or a couple of other things. Like just because of it gives you just that another weapon. The secondary had a good day, but Dave, this is what the question comes down to. Did they have a good day because they were winning their battles against wide receivers and not allowing passes to be connected? Or was it such inconsistent quarterback play that it allowed you to feel better about where your secondary was? And to me, we're not going to get that answer until probably week 2 or week 3. That's when we're going to feel better about it. Will Lee's a really good player. Like, I don't worry about Will Lee at one cornerback spot. It's the other one that I'm wondering about. Who is going to be that dude that lines up next to him or on the opposite side of him? And does that take you with that step forward because of what you have with Bryce Anderson at safety and what you have with Torian York at linebacker? And again, like there are pieces on this defense that still are really good. And that's what makes me excited in a sense for Texas A&M because of the Aggies do have guys. Torian York is a really good linebacker. Cassius Howell, I think, can be that pass rusher in a way that Nick Scorton was early on last year and kind of teetered off at one point. But I think he can be that impactful player. I like Bryce Anderson in the secondary. I love Will Lee's tape. I like some of the defensive players that they had brought in via the portal. But for the most part, it still feels like a work in progress. And that's okay right now. But we also know what the expectations are in College Station. And people are sick and tired of hearing Texas 8-4. Texas 8-4. Well, this does feel like right now at its best an 8-14.
Yeah. No, I mean, I trust they'll get better on defense. I mean, Mike Elko hasn't ever fielded a very bad defense. Again, they faulted down the stretch. But again, I think momentum-wise, it comes down to the Notre Dame and Auburn games and those 2 weeks right there. They got to get one with the Auburn being at home, obviously Notre Dame on the road. But I'm with you. Added in Julian Humphrey. You got some pieces. It's just got to come together. But again, we have the same conversation about every team in the league, dude. I mean, everybody I feel like has got some position where it's a really kind of a complete unknown, and everybody's saying they have it figured out. It's kind of just guessing. And if teams don't have multiple issues across the board or multiple positions, just kind of it has nothing to do with NIL, I guess a little bit, but it's more the transfer portal.
What I found really interesting, so Shamar Stewart is off to the NFL, and a lot of scouts believe he's going to be a first-round pick. Early enrollee freshman Marco Jones recorded almost as many sacks as Shamar Stewart.
He had a big spring game.
They get 4.5.
Elko came out and tempered everybody's, which is why. Yeah. I don't think we should expect him to come out now.
Okay. 5 sacks, 6 tackles for loss, 1 pass breakup.
Lawrence Taylor, is that you in a younger body?
Now, Myles Garrett 2.0 is back in College Station. Yeah. Let's credit Mike Elko said, promising future. Let's temper the expectations. The exact quote, I think he's extremely athletic. I think he's got a tremendous ability to rush the passer. I do not know if Aggie's expecting to have 5 sacks a game this fall. That might be a little bit high of expectations, but he had a really good spring game. He did. Total. Here's the other thing I will say. We can temper our expectations on Texas A&M. Well, we should, because I've been burnt before, and I'll be burned again. I know I will. But they did finish with 3 interceptions, 17 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups, 12 sacks. Now, that means one of two things, Dave. This is going to be a really good defense that is going to keep you in games, or their offense needs a bucket load of work, and you are feeling a little bit of pressure right now if you are Colin Klein. And there's no middle ground, in my opinion.
No, I 100% agree with you.
It's going to be really interesting to see what goes on in College Station this year. That week 3 game, it's week 3, right?
Yeah,
in South Bend, Indiana. That week 3 game, I think, is going to be a major litmus test. The kind of way that we talked about the Michigan game as a fork in the road for the Sooners this year, that might be the way I feel about Texas A&M.
For A&M, 100%. You at least got to split the back-to-back. I mean, not back-to-back weeks, but the back-to-back games because they have a bye week after Notre Dame. The Auburn and Notre Dame games. You got to get one of them. Have to. I mean, I'm sure if you asked them, they'd rather get the Auburn one just because it's a conference one.
Yeah, it's a conference game.
But you got to win one of those.
But also,
and let's be honest, you probably should. I mean, one of them's at home, and like Notre Dame's replacing. It's not I know they beat you last year, but it's not an unwinnable game.
It's not. Final thing on A&M. Demetrius Crownover spent most of the spring with an injury, so he wasn't at full speed. He's going to be your starting right tackle. You both had Trey Zune and Reed Adams out for this game because they were dealing with injuries. Le'Veon Moss was out. Amari Daniels was out. So, like, the offense that we saw is not going to be the offense that was on the field the entire time. Isaiah Williams, again, he could be a really solid player. He had 4 catches for 51 yards and a touchdown. Ashton Bethel-Roman may end up being a pretty decent name because if he had 2 catches for 38 yards to score. Jonah Wilson came on in. He had a big-time catch for a 41-yard gain from the Houston product. He may end up being something. I don't know what to make of this A&M team right now. Again, a lot of the players that you want to see, you hope that they can have a big-time role moving forward. Cassius Howell, we already talked about him. 1 tackle for loss, 1.5 sacks. Pretty overall decent day. Jordan Lockhart, I think he had a pretty big interception, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a good move for the linebacker spot. Just prove to me that this offense that we're going to see, especially on the offensive line, it's at full health and that they're going to be able to protect Marcel Reed. Because of that, to me, may end up making or breaking Texas A&M this year. Is literally, can you have solid quarterback play?
Yeah, comes down to Marcel Reed.
Like the video, hit the ring notification, of course, subscribe to the channel. We've been going for over an hour. As always, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today and get started with $250 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet, whether it be in the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, MLB regular season, or whatever you want. Just go ahead and make sure you bet at FanDuel.com/SECU. Dave and I are not going to be here on Thursday. Now, there's a reason for that. You probably know what the reason is. I work in Houston. There's this little thing called the NFL Draft. Texans pick at 25. I got to be at the stadium to go ahead and break that down. I also have to be on air on iHeartRadio to do all that. So I'm going to be pretty busy on Thursday. We'll be back on Monday to give you more intel surrounding the world of college football. We're going to be breaking down some transfer portal moves. We're working on getting a guest on Monday. Pretty fun guest. Guy that you know very well in the recruiting and the transfer portal realm. So stay put on that. If you haven't already, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. Make sure that also you follow us on socials. That way you can keep up to date and keep the banner going back and forth forever at Mr. Cole Thompson, at Dave Shumate SEC, and at SEC Unfiltered. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. This has been the Overtime Drive. We will see you next Monday. But until then, have a great start to your week. Have a great rest of your week. And remember, you only live life once. So don't go ahead and overreact to everything. And enjoy the world of college football because we're so close to being back. Peace.